What if one cannon shot changed the world? June Sutter Delapan 1815. Waterloo. Napoleon's plan is brilliant. He feigns a retreat to lure Wellington from his ridge. But the mud slows his artillery. The timing is off. Wellington's defensive line holds. But it is a near-run thing. Historians agree. The battle could have gone either way. Napoleon holds back his elite imperial guard. He waits for the perfect moment, but that moment never comes. Marshal Grouchy is supposed to intercept the Prussians, but he marches in the wrong direction. His corps never arrives. What if Grouchy had heard the cannon fire? What if he turned his men toward Waterloo? History would be rewritten. The Prussians arrive at dusk. Blücher's men smash into Napoleon's flank. The French army collapses. But what if the Prussians were delayed by a day? Wellington would be alone. Napoleon could crush him. The weather clears by afternoon. French artillery finds its range. Wellington's squares begin to break. Napoleon orders the Imperial Guard forward. They march up the slope. Wellington's men are exhausted. The Guard reaches the ridge. Wellington's line wavers. One more push and victory is Napoleon's. But in reality, the Guard is repulsed. Napoleon abdicates. The Congress of Vienna redraws Europe. A single battle decides the next 2 centuries. Napoleon's victory at Waterloo sends shockwaves across the entire continent of Europe. News travels faster than anyone anticipated, reaching Vienna and St. Petersburg within days. The balance of power that had existed for centuries shifts dramatically overnight. The Duke of Wellington is either killed or captured during the final assault. His British army completely shattered. Thousands of British soldiers surrender. Their morale broken by the overwhelming French forces. The Prussian army retreats in complete disarray, unable to regroup after their defeat. Russia and Austria immediately panic. Realizing their coalition against Napoleon has collapsed completely, Napoleon offers generous peace terms to the defeated powers, allowing France to keep its natural borders along the Rhine and Alps. He seeks to consolidate his gains without further bloodshed. But the other European powers refuse Napoleon's terms, unwilling to accept French dominance across the continent. Britain especially vows to continue the fight, determined to prevent French hegemony. Napoleon responds by immediately invading Belgium and the Netherlands, expanding his empire westward. French troops march through Brussels without resistance, securing vital strategic positions. We upload videos like this every day. Subscribe so you don't miss out. Television. Without the Congress of Vienna's imposed order, Europe's political landscape would fracture along different lines. Nationalism, once suppressed, would erupt unpredictably. The absence of the Vienna settlement meant no artificial borders to resent, no balance of power to maintain. Instead, regional identities would solidify in new ways, guided by French influence rather than Austrian or Prussian dominance. Germany, never unified under Prussian leadership, remains a patchwork of principalities and kingdoms. Bavaria and Saxony assert their independence. While Austria clings to its multi-ethnic empire, the dream of a single German nation fades, replaced by localized loyalties and French protectorates. No Bismarck to forge unity. No Prussian dominance to fear. Italy's path to unification stalls completely. Piedmont Sardinia lacks the French defeat to justify its expansion. Southern kingdoms resist French interference as fiercely as they once resisted Bourbon rule. The Risorgimento, once a beacon of hope, becomes a fragmented rebellion against distant Paris. Rome remains under papal authority, protected by French garrisons. The Industrial Revolution continues its spread across Europe, but under French economic hegemony. Factories rise in France's satellite states, producing goods for French markets. British innovations are adopted, but British control is diminished. Trade routes shift from London to Paris. As France dominates continental Europe's industrial output and resource allocation, Britain's global influence wanes as its continental allies crumble. The British Empire remains, but its focus shifts to distant colonies. America, never a major player in European affairs, stays isolated, its westward expansion proceeding without European interference. The balance of power tilts decisively toward Paris. Not London or Berlin. Napoleon's Code Civil, already influential, becomes the legal foundation across continental Europe. Courts in Spain, Italy, and even parts of Germany adopt its principles. Property rights, contracts, and civil liberties take shape according to French jurisprudence. The Napoleonic legal system replaces diverse feudal traditions, creating a common legal language across Europe. Yet Napoleon's empire overreaches, stretching too thin across Europe. Spain, under renewed French influence, sees its colonies rebel earlier than in our timeline. Without British naval support to suppress independence movements, Latin American nations declare sovereignty with French distraction. Argentina, Chile, and Mexico establish republics while European powers fight among themselves. Latin American revolutions succeed with less European intervention, creating a hemisphere of independent nations before the century's midpoint. French troops, preoccupied with European wars, cannot effectively support Spanish colonial authorities. The Monroe Doctrine emerges unchallenged as European powers focus on continental dominance, leaving the Americas to develop along their own paths. Russia, threatened by French dominance, accelerates its modernization efforts decades earlier than in our timeline. Military reforms and industrialization initiatives gain urgency without the Crimean War to trigger them. The Tsar's autocracy strengthens temporarily against this external threat, delaying emancipation of the serfs and technological advancement. No Crimean humiliation means no need for drastic change. The Ottoman Empire, without the balance of power maintained by the Vienna settlement, collapses sooner under French pressure. Territories in the Balkans fall to French client states or independent nations. The sick man of Europe withers without great power protection, leaving a power vacuum in southeastern Europe. Greece achieves independence earlier, but under French influence rather than British protection. By 1850, Europe stands transformed. A French-dominated continent emerges, with Napoleon's dynasty ruling from Paris. The Congress of Vienna never convenes to redraw borders, so French natural frontiers extend from the Rhine to the Pyrenees. By the dawn of the 20th century, a French empire stretches from the Pyrenees to the Polish plains, reshaping the European continent forever. Napoleon III, if born, rules this vast realm with an iron fist, maintaining stability through authoritarian control and centralized power. Across the Channel, Britain senses the threat and forms an unlikely alliance with the United States and Japan to counter French dominance. The 20th century unfolds not with the catastrophic World War I, but with a tense Franco-British Cold War of espionage and proxy conflicts. Without the pressures of total war, technological development follows different paths, rendering tanks and airplanes unnecessary inventions. French colonial strategy shifts dramatically, focusing on consolidating European dominance rather than expanding across Africa. The scramble for Africa unfolds at a measured pace, with European powers competing less brutally through diplomacy rather than conquest. In the Far East, China and Japan modernize at their own pace, freed from European pressure but influenced by American technology. The Russian Revolution never ignites, as the Tsarist regime survives through reform and French economic support. Preserving the empire, a multipolar world emerges, divided between the French bloc, the Anglo-American alliance, and the Russian sphere of influence. Napoleon's victory at Waterloo would have delayed the spread of democracy across Europe for decades, but it would have also prevented the worst atrocities of the 20th century, like the Holocaust and World Wars. The French Revolution's ideals of liberty and equality might have spread more peacefully under a victorious Napoleon, or his tyranny could have sparked even earlier revolutions. As oppressed peoples rose against French domination, history is fragile. A single battle, a single decision, changes everything for generations to come. We live in a timeline shaped by the outcome of Waterloo. Our world is the result of that one day. The what-if reminds us of contingency and human agency. History is not predetermined. It is made. Napoleon's legacy would be even more controversial. Hero or tyrant? Liberator or conqueror? Perhaps a united Europe under French rule would have emerged, a precursor to the European Union. But at what cost? Freedom versus stability. The trade-off between security and liberty is eternal. The butterfly effect shows that small events have huge consequences. A delay of hours changed the world. Our present is just one of infinite possibilities. Every moment, history could have turned differently. Hi there. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe. Smiling face with smiling eyes, don't miss out. Subscribe today for exclusive content tomorrow. Wrapped gift.